I've been using Shimano rods now for probably about 7 or 8 years, and my confidence could not be rivaled by using them. But I think in the past it's fair to say that whilst the blanks are lovely and they're very strong and they do everything that they're supposed to do cosmetically, some of the rods weren't finished how the UK market would choose to have a custom build or indeed a factory built rod finished. So what we've done at Shimano, we've taken that feedback on board, and we've now got 3 new ranges of rods. They're called Velocity, Suppressor and XS1. Now inside those ranges, for all the tackle tarts out there, you can actually buy a matching spod, marker, floater and a stalker rod. So if you buy, say for example, the Velocity range, you can get every single rod you need to cosmetically match your actual fishing rods. Now the rods, all the new rods that have been designed, are probably the most slimmest and responsive rods that Shimano have ever produced. And one of the key factors to that is HPC. Now HPC stands for high pressured carbon, and it's the curing process that makes all of these rods up to 57% stronger than any rod Shimano have ever produced before. There's also another sub-brand of each rod. I know it can be a bit confusing, but it's called Intensity. And what Intensity is, it's an actual out-and-out casting tool. So if you're a big chucker, or if you're looking for a specific casting rod, if it says Intensity on it, that will be the rod for you. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through each sub-brand of every model of the new range. The first range we're going to look at is the Velocity. They all retail around the $99.99 price bracket, and there's 5 rods in the range. The first one is an 11-foot 2 3/4. We also do a 12-foot 2 3/4 and a 3, and a 13-foot 3 and a 13-foot 3.5. They're all come with an option really of 50 or 40 mil rings. Some people like the 50 mil for the line fraps. If you're chucking bags a long distance, you don't want to be frapping up. And also what you've got is a 16 mil tip. Now the tip is overly large, if you like. That really does cut down on the frap ups if you get any weed through your line, onto your line that can go through your tip eye. It's an anti-wrap tip, so again on the casting it eliminates all the frap ups. And if you're using kind of long rigs, when you're packing your rods away, you can get a lead clip and a sort of tail rubber through them if you want to put your rig in the second eye up. The stainless butt cap on the end is an anti-scratch engraved stainless butt cap. A lot of them on different rods. You put it into gravel if you're fishing quite boggy swims, or where there's lots of stones, you can mark them, and purely from a tackle tart's point of view it looks a lot nicer. Moving now up the blank, you've got a full Japanese shrink wrap, which again is what the market seems to want these days. It's very minimalistic, very thin, and it looks absolutely lovely when they're actually in situ. Just twist that round. We've got the anti-stop sort of backrest, as we call it. That will sit behind obviously any sort of backrest that you choose to use, and it will stop the rod being pulled forward in the event of a really sort of savage take. Reel seat. What we've done on all the ranges of the Shimano rods is we've made the reel seat compatible with any single reel that we actually do. So that means from a very small bait runner all the way up to a long cast or a technium, we've made them sort of longer. So you can just extend them out. So even if you want to use a 2 3/4 with a big pit reel, we've give you that option to do so. Onto the line clip. Now a lot of line clips that are made of carbon can actually kink your line. Now I always use line clips. That's purely because I want to know if a fish is pulled and for whatever reason I've not noticed, or my alarm's packed up or whatever may have happened, if it's pulled out the clip, you know that you've had some sort of indication. But if you make them out of plastic, it doesn't kink your line. Moving on to the 3K weave. That's a carbon 3K weave, and it really is a nice touch there on the bottom of the rod. And onto the actual engraving on the rod, the Velocity name there, it's handwritten. So what it has done is give it that real custom built feel to the actual finished rod. One rod in particular in the Velocity range that's caught my eye, and one that I've been using quite a lot in testing, is the Velocity 11-foot 2 3/4. Now there is still an argument out there that you should really match the rod to the venue that you're fishing. So in this instance, where we are today, it's only a small little venue. You wouldn't want to come here with a 13-foot out-and-out casting tool because you're far too overgunned. And there's lots and lots of these commercial sort of small, up-close and personal venues opening up now. And what that 11-foot rod does give you in an instance where we are, there's lots of sort of little casts and pads, so the accuracy is second to none. And also when you're landing fish in tight swims, you've got less sort of rod out there within 11 foot, so it's easier to get full control over the fish when you're landing it. Much better feel. I don't think that you can't put this a long way. I've put this, in particular this rod, over 100 yards. It's about balancing it up. So even with a small bait runner and a 2.5 ounce lead, I'm balancing the rod up perfectly. So 100 yards is quite achievable for me with a rod like this. And I remember years ago, when Noah had built the Ark, when I started carp fishing, that my first carp rods were 11 foot. And they just seem to go out of vogue, if you like. But I think you're going to see a lot of these 11 foot models on the market over the next few years. Next up, we've got the suppressor range. Now these are an absolutely awesome bit of kit, these. Around £150, and all three models are manufactured just in 12 foot these. We've got a 2 3/4, a 3 and a 3 1/4. But as you can see, super slim blanks, real progressive action, and they're mega responsive, even at short range, even on big casts as well. And the line pickup is really, really responsive. Choice of 40 or 50mm butt rings, and again, I really do like the 50s. Not only do they serve a purpose in minimalising your frap ups around the butt ring, I think they look really tarty and sexy, which is kind of what everybody wants, I think. 16mm anti-wrap tip, so again, any weed or anything that you've gathered whilst reeling in will sort of flow through there quite easily and not get jammed up. And it really is a added bonus with this. There's no lip on the back of the tip ring, so there's no possible way you can crack off on the cast because the line has gone behind the lip. So we'll move right down the bottom, down the other end of the rod now. Anti-scratch stainless butt cap. Full Japanese shrink, again, real firm favourite of mine, that. You've got the butt stop there, so again the rod can't be pulled in. Moving up to the reel seat, as you can see, a 3K weave. First thing that's visibly noticeable there, you've got a slot for an isotope. Again, everybody seems to want to do that and put the isotopes in to make them all match up. The 3K weave goes right down the thread as well, right to the stainless butt cap, which is a nice little touch. We've just given a bit more attention to detail on this one, so again the final finished product is second to none. Plastic line clip again, so no damage to line, or certainly fluorocarbons, which I use a lot of. They're a lot thicker than monos, so there's no danger of the plastic line clip actually indenting onto the fluoro. The 3K weave, as you can see, carries on a lot further up the rod. This actually goes right past the spigot, so you've got a lot more responsive action down in the butt and a lot more strength. So, and it's like the old school textured finish. You know, I really do like this rod. I think it gives it a lot more individuality than any other sort of manufactured rod that I've seen. We've got that custom build feel with the handwritten logo of the suppressor there on the butt section. And again, what this is manufactured from, it's a processor, the HPC again, the XT100. So you know, not only have you got the 3K weave, but the process involved in the manufacturing means you've got a rod that is never going to let you down. The last in the range is the XS1s. Now these are absolutely unbelievable rods. They're so slim, in fact possibly one of the slimmest rods that I've ever seen commercially on the market. The carbon content is the XT200 high pressure carbon. So what that means is this is the most amount of carbon that we've ever put into a manufactured rod. Onto the models, there's three standard models in the 12 foot. You've got 2 3/4, 3 and a 3 1/4. But what you've also got is you've got two intensities. And when I mentioned earlier about the intensity, we've got a 12 foot and a 13, and the intensity is just an out-and-out casting rod. And we've worked, you know, synonymously with some good casting guys out there that can put a lead a long way. And certainly with I'm not the best caster in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I've put the 13 foot probably about 160, 170 yards, and that's on a clip. And like I say, I'm not the best caster in the world, and I wasn't a big 13 foot rod fan. I could never cast them, they never felt that comfortable, but the intensity really does feel like it's going to get me to some areas on swims where I couldn't necessarily hit before. Again, 50 and 40 mil option for everybody out there, 16 mil anti-wrap tip. What you've also got, we've strengthened some of the bottom, the butt ring and the second up eye, so we've got a 3-leg system on those two, and then it goes up to the single leg to lighten the tip, but that makes the tip a lot more responsive. Moving back down the rod, we've got the stainless anti-scratch butt cap, which is a lovely, lovely touch. I really do like that, you know, especially with me being a bit OCD and liking to keep everything in tip-top condition. You've got the full Japanese shrink, comes up to the backrest, the butt stop there, again to stop the rods moving forward. The 3K weave, actually all the way through the reel seat. You've also got stainless collars, certainly at the back, and if you can hear that, it's like it really does lock the reels down, so there's going to be no movement. Again, that's compatible. The 2 3/4 is compatible with a bait runner or a big sort of Technium if you want to use the big pit reels with the shorter test curve rods. You'll notice that we haven't actually included a plastic line clip here, and the thinking behind that is it's such a slim blank, and some people might not want to use a line clip, but a lot of people I see on the bank use their own plastic line clip, so you can either you can actually put it where some of them are manufactured, or you can move it up the rod. Some like it fit a lot further away. I personally like mine right next to reel seat, but the option is there. Rather than having one and not having it in the right place, we've kind of left them off. Again, we've got that real custom build feel to it with the cosmetics there. Really gives it the finishing touch. You can see the 3K weave. It goes all the way up the rod, past the spigot, to the second eye up. So you've got loads and loads of strength here in the butt section. And then it obviously goes down to the normal weave, past the second eye. But absolutely lovely rods. You've got everything here that you could want from the range. You've got lovely under the tip work for the 2 3/4, and you've got the big boy Roy, the intensity, if you want to cast for the moon. We've moved on to marker rods now. We've done this in its own individual section because there's 4 in the range. Now, the first thing that I can mention is the 3K weave. This will match any of the actual fishing rods in the range, so suppressors or velocities or XS1s, that will match up if that's what you want to do with the range, if you want to be a tackle dart. From moving on to test curves, we've got a 12-foot 3, we've got a 12-foot 6, 3 1/4. We've got a 13-foot distance 3 1/4, and then we've got the intensity big boy 3 1/4 in 12-foot 6. The first thing I'll say about any marker rod, and certainly the ones in our range, are they all come with 50 mil butt rings as standard. I think most people are, or if they're not, they should be using some form of braid to find the features on the lake bed. No stretch, so obviously you're going to get a lot more feel for what's down there. So 50 mil butt rings are, in my opinion, essential. 16 mil tip. So any shot leader knots on braid, if you cast it a long way, will flow through the tip eye with ease. Now, the main, or in my opinion, the main selling point about these is the tip is nearly 5 millimeters thick. And by doing that, the actual feel through the actual rod, even though these are based on a 3-pound test curve, don't think it's just a 3-pound rod that we've called a 3-pound marker rod. It's not based on a 3-pound test curve. The tip is 5 mil thick, like I've just mentioned, but what that will do, it will transform all the feel straight down into your hands, so any pebble will feel like an absolute rockery, you know, so it really does transform that feeling.